The conversation began for 400,000 people in 1969 on Max Yasker's farm when Wavy Gravy stood on the stage in Woodstock, New York on that Sunday morning. And he said this: "We've got to feed and take care of each other." And now, years later, many of those same baby boomers and their sisters and their brothers have spent their lives having fed and taken care of children and others who were in need, facing a future they could little have imagined at the time, having their children put aside potentially years of their lives to take care of them and suffer the resulting consequences of doing so. This quote from the book The Conversation by Harley Gordon really expresses how many of us have difficulty in having this type of conversation. Extended care, long-term care, what does that have to do with me? I mean, after all, I'm healthy. I work out every day, swim, play pickleball, bike, do all those kind of things. And for the most part, eat pretty healthy, so that shouldn't be a problem. And hey, look, I had parents who lived into their 90s, so this really shouldn't be an issue. What could go wrong? Well, the answer is plenty. It's a known fact that people are living longer. According to the Institute on Aging, there are more than 40 million Americans who are age 65 and older, and that figure is expected to increase as the last of the baby boomers reach age 65. A topic on their minds is exactly how are they going to best prepare for their future healthcare needs, as well as to pay for the supportive services and senior living accommodations. Extended care is not only a life-changing event for an individual, it's also life-changing for the family. Preparing can help lessen the impact, and there are good options that exist. In this video lesson, we'll use some terms you may not be familiar with, and this chart will act as a guide. So what is extended care practically? Well, it's the ability to live life as comfortably as you can and with as much dignity as possible. It might surprise you to know that 7 out of 10 65-year-olds will need extended care in the future. It might also surprise you to know that 8% of people between 40 and 50 years old have a disability that could require extended care services. At a time when many hardly have their retirement fully funded, it pays to look into the options for long-term care and what kind of costs are involved with a long-term care insurance plan, regardless of your age. Having the facts can save you money long-term and help you come up with a financial plan to weather difficult times. Here's the truth. Most of you are not allocating any of your retirement income for the purpose of extended care or long-term care. That can be problematic, and here's why. When it's needed, or if somebody needs to be taken care of, often it's the spouse who does that, and that spouse sometimes has to give up his or her job, and by the way, it's more often the woman, to be able to do that. And they become worn out, and sometimes they become ill as a matter of taking care of somebody else. When the spouse is either unwilling or unavailable to take on the responsibility, sometimes it falls to adult children. And when adult children are involved, the same things can happen. They can put their own lives on hold, they forgo their own income, and sometimes they get worn out and compromise their own health also. A healthy, stress-free environment really focuses around 4 key areas. We call these keys the 4 M's. The first one is maximizing current cash flow, especially in the early years of retirement. The second one, maintaining your current standard of living. Third, minimizing cash flow risk. And fourth, minimizing short and long-term principal erosion. Extended healthcare needs can interrupt your retirement, place an undue burden on your family or spouse, and quickly deplete your resources and liquidity. A properly designed plan to address these potential needs will make you sleep better and be prepared if it becomes an issue. In each area of a state and the country, extended care costs can be quite different. When we examine the costs in St. Louis, these are the costs that we find for each of the various levels of care. We have an aging populace that's going to need more and more care. We are literally sitting on an extended care time bomb. There are several ways to fund extended care that we'll talk about now. The first one is using traditional long-term care insurance. The second is that there are some government programs available to assist. The third would be to self-fund, and the fourth would be to use something called asset-based long-term care strategies. Let's discuss the merits of each of these four funding methods. First, traditional long-term care insurance can be a great way to prepare for extended care if care is needed. The problem is that we have no way of knowing if we are the ones that will be needing the care. Many don't like the idea of another bill to pay, and qualifying for coverage can be a challenge. Long-term care insurance also brings the possibility of future premium increases, potentially making an affordable premium unaffordable in the future. In the end, there's also a loss of choice and control. Here's a chart of the typical costs of a long-term care insurance policy in St. Louis, according to the Genworth Insurance Company. Perhaps you're already familiar with Medicare and Medicaid, and in fact, maybe you're already using some of the Medicare services. Medicare was never intended for long-term care purposes. It's intended for rehabilitative care after a surgery or a diagnosis, and it has to be done in a Medicare-approved facility. Medicare rehabilitative services can last up to 100 days, but here's the deal. You've got to have been in the hospital for at least 2 days with whatever the diagnosis was, and go into that facility 3 days or longer after you get out of the hospital for that purpose. Medicaid is really a form of welfare, and it's administered by the states. And it's not available for some forms of assisted living or in-home services. And what happens here is that you pretty much have to impoverish yourself, getting down to around $1,100 of assets left before you can go into an approved Medicaid facility. The bad part about Medicaid is that you lose control completely. You've got to go where a bed is available, and that might not be in a facility that you would choose. The third alternative is self-funding. If you haven't prepared for extended care or you don't feel the need to, what you're doing is called self-funding. It means that if there is an extended care need, you'll bear the entire cost and risk. Assets can be set aside just in case. However, the problem is not being able to know how much is enough. Some people can afford to absorb the cost of a few years of care. But what if the need becomes greater? What if care lasts 10 years? 10 years at $10,000 a month, often the cost of a memory unit. Now we're looking at $120,000 a year. What if you need that for 10 years? Now you're talking $1.2 million. And what about the tax treatment? Self-pay does not take advantage of the Pension Protection Act passed by Congress in 2002. That went into effect in 2010 and had a significant impact on our annuity products and utilizing them in a tax-advantaged way to pay for extended care. The PPA allows federal tax-free withdrawals for qualifying long-term care events from annuities funded with non-qualified dollars. The last option is called asset-based extended term care. Asset-based long-term care consists of a specific insurance product based upon life insurance and annuities. Some advantages they offer include income tax-free care benefits, benefits even if care is never needed, and the ability to obtain premiums that are guaranteed to never increase. When we meet with clients who purchased traditional extended care insurance a long time ago, we often see great coverage and fairly inexpensive premiums. The last couple years, we've seen them bring us a new bill from the company that asks them to pick from either higher premiums, we've seen as much as 50% increases, or a reduced benefit. Neither of these choices are good ones, and the companies cannot make those decisions on their own. They have to go to the state insurance commissioners in order to ask for either rate relief or a reduction in the amount of coverage. And they almost always get the nod. Predictably, we'll see these increases happen more and more as the baby boomers age. Their lives extended because of medical innovations, and they need more care for more time. It's just that pesky four-letter word again, math, M-A-T-H. The numbers must make sense, and math doesn't lie or have any gray areas. There are 3 good ways that you can use assets that maybe right now you're not counting on for retirement income that can be used for tax-efficient and reliable assets for your long-term care. Traditionally, leverage is an investment strategy of using borrowed money, specifically the use of various financial instruments or borrowed capital to increase the potential return of an investment. Here's where it's different when we talk about using leverage in your personal financial plan. We're not borrowing money from somewhere else, but we're doing it from ourselves. Yet we want to accomplish the same results, to increase the potential return on the investment. Let me give you an example. Real estate investors are often highly leveraged in the traditional financial sense. They may purchase many investment properties with low equity and use that equity to buy more. If it all goes well, it does. But if the real estate markets are in a bubble, or if the investor over-leveraged and there is a correction of interest rates as they go up, the house of cards can, and did in 2008, collapse. We advocate the use of financial leverage in your plan that doesn't increase risk, and in fact, in some cases, it decreases the risk in order to pay for some of your long-term care needs. This is a powerful way to make money in two ways. Let me explain further. Most of us that have done well have a large portion in that tax-deferred, or what we call postponed, bucket in the middle. And we might have become enlightened that this is a ticking time bomb, and we might have decided to begin to move it from this place before taxes inevitably increase. We may have a strategy to Roth over some this year, and that's a really good idea. But let's see how to identify a purpose which is addressing the possible need for extended care for both, a plan, an asset-based extended care, and a way to monitor the progress. In this case, they also became keenly aware of their tax time bomb, their lack of a plan for extended care, which is pinpointing, their alternatives to self-insuring, which is contrasting, and then the cost of that self-insurance for this possibility, which is calculating. Now they must decide whether to make a change. See how the process works? Now let's take a look at a hypothetical example. And remember, it will be different for each family depending on age, health, and other factors. Let's say they decided to roll over $300,000 of Ken's IRA into an asset-based hybrid long-term care annuity life insurance strategy. So Ken and Carrie transferred with no taxable event, the same as a rollover, $300,000 from Ken's tax-deferred retirement account, his IRA. This single premium will now fund an extended care policy for both Ken and Carrie, giving them each $10,253 a month should they need it for extended care. Look at the chart again. If an extended care situation arises and either one or both of them need home health care, assisted living, nursing home, or memory care, among other things, the monthly benefit shown will kick in for those expenses. In this scenario, between the two of them, they will have the benefit for 50 months, or if both need the care at the same time, it would last for 25 months. When that pot runs out, the benefit stops. If they choose to pay the additional optional lifetime long-term care premium of $2,676 a year, their coverage would be lifetime unlimited for both. Regardless of how long they have to have the benefit, it would be there. The worst case scenario might be 10 years in a memory unit. An additional yearly fee will provide protection from inflation at 3%. It might sound too good to be true, but let me tell you more. If they died before receiving any of the benefits, the death benefit, which is at $512,688, would go to their beneficiaries, in most cases tax-free. Now let's say Ken needed the benefits for a year, and he received the $10,000 each month for his care, then he passed away. And Carrie had the protection in place but never needed any care and died several years later. The beneficiaries would then receive the difference between what Ken used, $123,036, and the death benefit of $512,688, or $389,652. If it had been 10 years since they made the move to leverage, remember they started with $300,000 and received or leveraged it into at least $512,000, a small part of their IRA to have available for this purpose, all of the benefits utilized for extended care would be tax-free. And you know what? We really like that. If they had self-insured, the $123,000 used for Ken's care would be taxed as either ordinary income or at a capital gain. What if Ken had needed 5 years of care? Remember, pinpoint, contrast, calculate. That would be $615,180, or for 10 years, $1.23 million. With this strategy as part of a plan, they now have the benefit tax-free, and it's for a lifetime. Now look again, the middle portion where it says decide to quit or surrender the policy. This is the quit part of live, quit, or die. Maybe they received a huge inheritance and decided to move to New Zealand. They could surrender the policy for any reason and receive the greater of the surrender value, or, at a very minimum, the amount of the single premium they paid in, which, remember, was $300,000 in this case. If 31 days or more go by after the policy goes into force, the full return of premium can be provided. If they both never need the policy and live a long, happy life, the death benefit would then pass to their beneficiaries tax-free. If they use some of the benefits, say in year 10, Ken got ill and needed some assistance, and they chose to engage a home health care company to assist Carrie, and that cost $5,000 a month, and Ken either didn't need it after 10 months or he passed it on, and then Carrie lived another 5 years, the benefits would be available to her at up to $10,253 a month. And if Carrie then passed, the difference between what was used for Ken's care and the death benefit would pass to their beneficiaries. This is the best by far of any of the asset-based extended care solutions that are currently on the market, and this company has been in business for more than 100 years. So you were smart, and 20 years ago, knowing you might need some kind of long-term care in the future, you inherited $75,000 from your great-uncle Buster, and you purchased an annuity that you would let sit and grow, and if you ever needed long-term care, you would have that $75,000 and the growth to use for your care. Over the last 20 years, it's now grown to $180,000, and you're feeling really warm and fuzzy about this decision. The cost basis is $75,000. The growth is $105,000. You'd pay taxes on the $105,000 when used. But what if you took that annuity and you utilized the Pension Protection Act and completed a 1035 exchange into a PPA qualified linked benefit annuity? All that $180,000 could now be used for long-term care purposes, tax-free. Many whole life and universal life insurance policies offer a path for long-term care. They do it through what's called an accelerated death benefit. They'll provide up to $380 a day, which is the current 2020 IRS limit, which is $11,400 a month for care, and in the St. Louis area, that's more than needed for an extended care facility. Some specialized fixed index annuities provide another measure of protection and don't require any health examinations. In other words, you don't have to medically qualify as you would for live, quit, or die, or for the life insurance solutions we've previously discussed. With a properly constructed fixed index annuity from the right insurance company, one has the option of taking what is called lifetime income, meaning when you need more income for your plan, you can switch this on and begin to receive an income for life based on the income value of the annuity. For example, and this is just an estimate, it can be a bit different with each company and the ages of the annuitant. If you had a fixed index annuity, and the income value was $500,000, the yearly income would be around $25,000. If you had an extended care need, the company would then double that income for up to 5 years, or $50,000 a year, until the cash value of the annuity was depleted. Then the yearly income would go back to $25,000, and it would continue for the rest of your life, even when the account balance of the annuity went to zero. Regardless of the path, it's important to be prepared. There are things that can be done to lessen the impact. Going back to the book, The Conversation, the author really describes that men and women are hardwired differently as it relates to being able to have the conversation and even thinking about this topic of extended care. Here is an excerpt. Men believe they have 2 tasks to perform: to find food for the home and to protect those in the home. Their brains are constructed to dismiss the risk of performing these tasks. It's natural, therefore, to dismiss the risk of needing extended care or of dying or becoming seriously disabled during working years for that matter, because it would undermine their basic directives. In fact, if you're a male and you believe your role is to provide for and protect others, Do you think there's any chance of these events happening to you? Probably not. Why? Because, like myself, you cannot imagine being unavailable to take care of those you love. Therefore, in your mind, the risk of an extended care event happening is essentially zero. In fact, any discussion of the subject makes you feel very uncomfortable. If there's little or no chance of these events happening, why take the time to create a plan to deal with it? If there's no risk in the event happening, there can be, by rational deduction, no consequences. Right, Dr. Spock? Women view the issue of risk very differently, although they also believe, as do men, that they will not need care or die or become seriously disabled during working years. They are predisposed to take a more nuanced approach to the subject. Unlike men, who seek risk and the consequences of risk as being separate, women generally see them as a singularity. A risk is a consequence. Think about it in this way, gentlemen. Have you ever tossed your young child into the air? Awesome, no? Your wife's reaction? A series of vignettes of what happens if you don't catch your child. Men generally believe that there are no ifs, ands, or buts of needing care. Women, when asked if they believe they will need care, will often hesitate and then answer, they hope they don't need care. Having the extended care conversation can be very difficult, and this book has made it much easier for me to do it and my clients to be able to have that conversation. At Lionsgate Advisors, we believe that making no provisions for extended care can cause even the best retirement plan to perhaps fail. Why self-insure and risk such a large part of your asset base to failure? After all, you've made sound decisions throughout your life to get you to this point. You're even aware of the effect that taxes can have on your retirement plan, and you've put provisions in place to mitigate those. We want to be able to share with you the best tools available to you and your family to help you build in the extended care protection that you need and to protect your retirement plan. We invite you to schedule a meeting with us, either in person or a virtual meeting if we need to do that, because we want to get our experts in front of you to do further education around not only extended care, but your retirement planning and help you put the right tools in place to do it. So let me ask you a question. What are you waiting for?